I get to bring to you today a fellow Illinois girl, a fellow Illinois cop, but she's still on the job, doing the job every single day, but she doesn't stop there. She is also incredibly involved, incredibly educated, and incredibly well versed in a topic that is near and dear to us at the National Police Association. That is police officer wellness. Elizabeth Pohl, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So first and foremost, because I gotta ask you, because I ask everybody, why did you become a cop?
Oh boy, does temporary insanity kind of does that count? Actually, I was very young. And I was in college and I knew that I wanted to get into law enforcement. And I actually kind of had the plan, because as a 20-year-old, we have it all figured out, right? We know everything. I was planning to go to the FBI and I thought, going the municipal route to begin and have some experience would be something that, would be a brownie point. And I ended up on the Chicago Police Department and then, went back to grad school. But then you realize it becomes kind of difficult to, go through an academy again and kind of change around. So yeah, I stayed on the police department.
So here you are, you're a young woman just out of college. You're on one of the largest police departments in the nation, and you know, inarguably one of the most dangerous cities in the country. What was that like when you were a young cop?
I was very, very excited and motivated. Um, I really was looking forward to it, but there was a part of me that realized quickly, like, oh wow, there's so much about the world I don't know. So, it was exciting. I really wanted to do the job. I wanted to, I know it's cliche and we all say we want to help people, but there's some part of you inside that really does want to kind of get out there and, offer some kind of protection and help to the most vulnerable. So yeah, I was lucky enough to work in a pretty fast district on the South Side. That's where I spent most of my career. And I was luckily smart enough to adapt quickly and really just kind of turn to the old timers and really learn from them because they just have so much experience and wisdom. And that's what gave me a lot of success.
You know, when we talk about police officer mental health, and you talk about the old timers, me being one of them, we were told in the academy, don't talk about it, don't take it home, don't share the terrible things that you see every day with your family. When you went to the police academy, was there any kind of focus on mental wellness?
No, unfortunately, I've been on the job now for a little over 20 years, and we did not have anything that would give us kind of a heads up and really just kind of prepare us for what we were going to be thrown out into the lion's den for. And it was just kind of like you got out there, it was a culture shock for a lot of people. There were things that, still to this day, you think you've seen it all, and there's something that comes along and surprises you, right? So we just had to kind of figure it out. And for a long time, people just didn't know how to figure it out, but you just kind of had to keep showing up and keep pushing through.
So when did you decide that you're going to do more than just kind of take care of yourself, that you really wanted to focus on police officer wellness, further your education, and really be a part of the solution to this issue?
Yeah, so very early on in my career, I realized that we had a major issue with suicide. And I did not know this prior to becoming a cop. I always, you hear the job's dangerous, it can be dangerous, and it's more so like getting shot or killed in the line of duty, right? And so the chatter around suicide when we would have one happen, and it was often, really got my attention and really got me thinking about why this is happening. Like, how and why does this happen? And so that's kind of where it started for me and really getting involved in trauma and suicide. I went back to grad school. I got my master's in forensic psychology, and I was juggling that between the jobs. So I worked nights, and then I was, going to school, and then I had to do clinicals and intern. So it was a lot, right? But I really continued to have that interest in the trauma and the suicide, especially because of what I kept seeing and hearing on the job. So I got involved in getting certified in suicide psychological autopsies. And I started to conduct those. And it's really just going into the life of an individual first responder, but I specifically have focused on police officers, and just kind of try to go back to see how the suicidal ideation manifested itself and really try to dissect it and just pick up all those risk factors that were present to try to understand how an individual started to and continued to spiral to a point where they felt that this was the only option for them. And they felt that this was the decision that needed to be made in order to have their out. And it's quite sad, but very interesting also because it is so informative and we are able to see, and especially from a psychological standpoint, I get to really dissect it and see how so many behaviors that were present are indicative of all these risk factors that were present. I mean, serious risk factors in all areas of their life, right? Not just the job, but like their personal lives and mental health and I mean, sleep, all kinds of issues. And I'm able to really just kind of put this together in a report and really just break down this whole entire story and show how, you know, a lot of these things that were present are things that could potentially be prevented if we're a little more proactive and addressing them and dealing with them before an individual reaches the point of crisis.
This is so incredibly important. And I don't think a lot of people have even heard that term, psychological autopsy. You
Yeah.
know, we are more familiar. I mean, everybody watches, you know, detective shows, right? We're more familiar with what an actual autopsy is. But what you do is so extraordinary. It's time consuming. It's I'm gonna imagine it's like you said, it's pretty sad. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we are discovering in this profession, as well as with other people, because we have a mental health crisis in this country, just in our general population, there's no doubt about it, um, is we're discovering with police officers that they have trauma that comes before the job very often, that comes outside of the job. And I think the more that we learn, the better we are at preventing. So talk about that a little bit. What are some of the things that you discover when sadly you are looking at an individual's life to figure out how they made that ultimately horrible decision to take their own life?
Yeah, so that's a really great point that you bring up, and that's exactly it. Um, a lot of individuals have experienced trauma from childhood, adulthood prior to the job. Then you have traumas that we experience on the job, right? And so people think that because, you know, you've kind of persevered and you've moved forward from things from childhood in a sense, that's it. It's good, it's gone, it's done. And realistically, it's still there. You know, we suppress a lot of things and we just kind of put them off to the side, but they're still there. There are issues that are undealt with. And so then when you have a lot of individuals that I have found when they, you know, have trauma prior to the job, especially, and then they come onto the job, we experience a lot of things that are triggers to a lot of those old traumas. And then you have on top of that new traumas. So there's a lot that people are dealing with. And for the most part, you know, we all go through things on the job personally and all of that, and we push through, right? We are able to, you know, we have that traumatic incident, critical incident where, you know, you have someone shot and killed, or, you know, issues with scenes with children and all of that. And it's really hard, right, for us to deal with. But, you know, we get the job done, we keep going, and we show back up the next day. And in a sense, yes, we are good enough to be able to come back and keep going, but how good are we really? You know, we tend to say, yeah, I'm good, everything's right, I'm fine. But realistically, we're not. We're still carrying that. A lot of people carry, you know, certain scenes and memories and visuals that they've experienced and they're not dealt with. And those traumas, we just tend to compartmentalize, just kind of like shove them down. But one way or another, they find a way to just come back up. And it varies from person to person. Then you have all kinds of other issues in your personal life. You know, we have kids, we're significant others, parents we're taking care of, family members, there's finances. I mean, there's just so many issues that, you know, pile up. And what I've found in a lot of these cases that is that a lot of individuals are in so much pain and agony, if you will, like mentally, emotionally, physiologically. And some people don't necessarily even want to die. They just want to stop the pain. But for them, at the state that they're in, with impaired judgment and clouded thinking, and there's so much going on, they find that this is the only way. And when people lose hope, and those are the protective factors like your support systems and the things that keep you going, that give you hope to live, when that stuff diminishes or is absent, it makes it that much easier for an individual to go down this route and say, you know what, screw it. What's the point? You know, this is the only way I'm going to ever get this to stop because I just can't get it to stop.
How often do you find that drugs or alcohol are involved in that clouded judgment?
Oh my goodness. I have yet to kind of come across a case that doesn't have one of the two or both factors, especially at the time of the death. One of the biggest things that I have been finding too is the use and mismanagement of psychotropic medications. And I wrote an article where I talk about this, which is more prevalent. You know, we have a lot of issues with, like you said, in society, general population, first responders, everyone. There's a lot of depression and anxiety going on, right? And so people sometimes end up getting on medication in our population because of sleep issues. You know, people may go to their primary and ask for, you know, help, some kind of sleep aid, maybe a Xanax or something to try to sleep. And all of these medications, these psychotropic meds that are antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, these medications are very, very sensitive for one to be engaging in if you're not properly managed by a psychiatrist, preferably, right? And so even in some cases, when you are on those medications and you're not taking them at a certain, you know, certain days, like every day, same time kind of thing, you don't miss them. If you go cold turkey off of them, you can actually experience a psychotic break, a point of psychosis. And I always tell officers when I do training and everything, you know, think about the call that you're always getting about, you know, John, who's bipolar, the family's calling and they're saying, you know, John's bipolar, he's been off his meds, he hasn't taken them in 2 weeks, and John's ripping the house apart. And now we're called in and we show up, and sure enough, John's wrecked the house. He's going through an episode. He wants to possibly fight. This is what happens when you come off of those psychotropic medications in a way where you're not properly weaned off of them. You're not managed. And so I've seen, even with just anxiety medication and antidepressants, you know, people will take them and they'll just kind of go cold turkey. And it's enough to even put you into suicidal ideation.
Well,
It
don't you
really
think cops think, that stuff doesn't apply to me, I can handle it, kind of a thing?
Yeah, sometimes it's that, or it's just, you know, they're not under the proper care, the right doctor. Sometimes, you know, a primary care physician means well, and it is legal for them to maybe give you the medication, but, you know, it's like anything else. Are you going to go to an ortho doctor if you have a cardiac issue? No, like you want that cardiologist to be the one to really manage what's going on with your heart and those meds. So it's kind of the same thing. Like the psychiatrist really has a better handle at dealing with these medications and understanding what they do for certain individuals, what side effects, you know, you're having, and if you are, what to do, where to go next, if we need to get off of it, how do we properly get off of it? So that, you know, and then mixing it with alcohol is, oh my goodness, one of the scariest things because, and I get it, we've all at some point in our lives engaged in drinking while we've been on like antibiotics, and nothing really terribly happens other maybe like the effects, you know, aren't as great, right? of the medication. But when it comes to psychotropic medication, if given the individual, now again, it depends on the individual and their chemical makeup, right? If you have a glass of whiskey and depending on the psychotropic med that you're on, that could be enough to just put an individual into suicidal ideation. It really varies.
And that's so extraordinary because I think that a lot of people, like you said, get these prescriptions and the doctor just kind of, who's trying to help, but just says, yeah, read the insert, right, from the drugstore when you pick up your medication. And again, you said something really, really profound when you're talking about these medications. You need to take it at the same time each day. No one has a more chaotic work life than a police officer, right? You don't do the same time, you don't do the same thing at the same time every day in anything, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it's not necessarily, I guess, the same time, just the fact that it's consistent more than anything, right? Like if you are with those medications supposed to take it one daily or something like that, take one, two, three, then you skip four, five, you go back to it, that really just kind of throws it off. So yeah, it's and the alcohol use and the drug use, I mean, that's so prevalent too. We have a lot of people who are, abusing prescription medications. We get injured, right? And so we have an opioid crisis in this country in general. And then, individuals are kind of just popping those, painkillers like Tic Tacs, and that's an issue. Then you're drinking with it, comes another issue. So yeah, we definitely have to do better and inform people, I feel, on these topics and these issues more, because you would think a lot of people are well informed and have that knowledge, but there's a huge gap I've found. And I think that by providing the psycho education that I've put together as a result of all this research and all the cases I've conducted, I feel that there are a lot of pieces of information that we need to put out there to our first responders regarding all of this to be more proactive. And that's the way we'll kind of turn things around so that people are kind of like, well, I'm aware now, at least I have options. What are the resources, right? People, when someone's in crisis, it's that much harder to really navigate versus, oh, let me find out and know what's available to me, what kinds of therapeutic avenues or outlets I have available to me, and where do I even begin prior to all of that. And overall, I really feel it's important that first responders are taught how to self-advocate for themselves. Like you should be asking questions if you're going to be, you work with your doctors or your team, your any kind of your therapeutic teams or whatever. You work together to try to figure out what is the best avenue for you, because overall, you know yourself better than anyone does. And so that's another thing that we really push is learning how to advocate for yourself and where to even begin, what avenues are available for you to kind of go down.
And you talk about all this in your trainings, I know. What can we do as first responders and for family members watching, things like that? What are you advocating for as far as prevention, so that everybody else get, like you get to retire when you're ready to go and live a happy retirement life like me?
Right. So, one of the biggest things that I really talk about in training with officers and being proactive is really just paying attention to again, yourself. We can sit here and lie all day, every day to our loved ones, to our coworkers, to anybody, right? We're fine, we're good, whatever. But we know when things are not right with us, right? When we're off, maybe we don't have it like pinpointed down to like a science, like I know exactly what's wrong, but something's off. And so it's like, pay attention to that stuff, right? When we're involved in a lot of, whether it's critical incidents or day-to-day jobs, but it's a lot of traumatizing and situations that are just a lot of pressure and just difficult things, we need to take the time to try to provide self-care for ourselves, right? And so what that looks like for each individual is different. But when things are off or things aren't right and it's only getting worse, as much as we want to be in denial, as much as we want to try to just ignore, we really have to deal with it. I find that when people don't deal with their issues, that's when things just continue to spiral and spiral because it all just keeps building. So the resources, whether it's psychotherapy, EMDR, cold water plunges, anything, exercise at the gym, I don't know, a walk. Seriously, it sounds silly, but engaging in things that would normally make you happy, even before the job. I mean, there are people I've met that are like, yeah, I haven't gone fishing, and I used to like to fish. I haven't gone fishing in like 10 years because life's so busy. I got the kids, it's that. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, you engage them in that conversation of fishing. Their faces, they light up. They're talking about this. They're telling me stuff that I'm like, I know nothing about fishing, by the way. And I'm just sitting there listening, but like the excitement, the enthusiasm, all of it. And I'm just like, these are the outlets, these are the things that we need to try to make a little bit of time for, to kind of just decompress and be able to offer that self-care for ourselves that we don't do enough of, right? And so whatever it is, if it's therapeutic, if it's a hobby, if it's more time with your family, we do need to find what it is that helps to try to, take care of ourselves instead of letting us continue to spiral.
And one of the things that our leadership needs to do is help us be able to do that, don't they?
Yeah.
Tell us how people can find you.
You can go to www.resilient-heroes.com. All the information is on there to get in touch with me, email, phone, and all of the services that we're offering for the psychoeducation, and get in touch with us, and we'd love to come out to wherever you are in the country.
You are truly doing God's work, and we so appreciate you for being with us today, and we appreciate what you do. And if you would like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Are you passionate about supporting law enforcement? The National Police Association is on a mission to strengthen our communities, protect our families, and ensure justice prevails. But they need your help. Every dollar you donate makes a difference. It funds the legal defense of police officers and police agencies, supports advocacy for pro-law enforcement legislation, and funds community outreach programs and education. Imagine safer streets, stronger bonds between officers and neighborhoods, and a brighter future for all. Join us. Visit our website at nationalpolice.org to donate today.